Hey everyone, Brendan Snyder here. How are you? Thanks so much for joining me. And say hello to my guest co-host here. I got Grant Arthur from the Rock Warehouse. How are you doing today, man?
Hey, good. Nice to be here once again, Brendan. It's just looking forward to this discussion.
Yeah,
Looking
no, it was
forward.
really good. We're doing another underrated and obscure albums. We got a lot of great feedback from that first episode. My thing is basically who doesn't like discovering new music? I touched on it last time where you and I both have huge collections. So it gets difficult the more and more you go on, but somehow, some way, there's always something new that I'm finding that I don't know about. You experienced it the last time on the channel.
Yeah.
Others out there chimed in with the things that you had, brought up that were exposing. Yeah, there you go. So you picked that up. A lot of
Got
people did.
this.
Yeah. Oh, you found one. I
Of
still
course.
can't find one. I looked
100%.
on eBay, I looked on Amazon Marketplace, like ah, that is great, man. That warms
Oh
my
yeah, you
heart.
cost me a lot of money, Brendan.
Yeah, yeah.
There was more. I know there was more.
Yeah, I don't
Oh well, I'm sure we'll stumble onto it.
right. So anyways, though we had some great stuff, and obviously the point of the episode is that lots of stuff runs under the radar. We're each going to pull out five of our favorite underrated and obscure albums, hopefully turn you guys on to some new stuff, or at least just remind you about maybe that hidden gem that's stuck away that you haven't thought about in a number of years, and you can pull that out. So we'll dive into it here. No particular order. Grant, you want to do your first one?
All right, I'll do my first one. And I want to say, doing these shows and collaborating with people and having guests on
Mm-hmm.
really turn you on to a lot of things that maybe slipped under the radar. Maybe it's a regional thing. Maybe there's something in your part
Yeah,
of the country that I may not hear. I
correct.
know that that type of thing's pretty much gone by the wayside. But
I mean, Stranger was that way. That was an East Coast band. You weren't familiar with them. And then
uh,
you brought out a couple local things. Who was the Lollipop one?
Lollipop, uh,
Guild?
the Lollipop Guild, uh, Lollipop Factory.
Think well, it's very, very close. Lollipop Factory. But yeah,
But yeah, that's I got this, and this is that Stranger CD that you recommended that
yeah. And
I
what?
haven't really dived into it so much yet, but I will.
All
I
right.
need to report back.
Yes, I yes. On the next episode, if this one does well again, I've already prepped for a third one. I've got five albums pulled for that one.
Yeah,
So
I could do five more.
maybe we report back with some of the ones that we picked up in the interim,
Hmm.
like that
Yeah.
Russia and Stranger and stuff.
Force 10. That's the one I
Yes.
was thinking about.
That
Um,
I listened to that three or four more times after our video. It was just really so good for me. Yeah, Reckless. Man, you just bought all five of the ones
oh,
that
I
I bought.
know. It's don't bring it up. God, I went crazy.
So
Because if you're recommending something, I'm in.
yeah.
If you dig it, I dig it. Hopefully. We'll
Let's see
see.
what happens today, folks.
All right, so my first pick, ladies and gentlemen, we're gonna go with a band formed 1986. This is a New York band.
Okay.
Now,
I'm
this came
here.
out on Zoo Entertainment. I got turned on to this by Scott Byron, who was A&R rep for Zoo Entertainment. He's the one who brought Matthew Sweet to Zoo.
Okay.
Because
Zoom is
before
great.
that, Matthew Sweet's Girlfriend album was sitting on a shelf at A&M for a year.
Hmm.
The whole other story, the interviews, you want to go back, it was like 2 years ago. I probably can't even watch myself then. We were having that conversation before.
Yeah.
But he turned me on to this band. This is a band called the Spelvins. Oh,
Oh, I
that's
don't
not
know
it.
that.
Wrong one.
Oh,
Damn it.
it's
The
Spelvins.
Spelvins
Oh.
came out on Zoo. They put out one record.
Uh-huh.
Uh, Whichever Train Comes, released in 1993. 10 songs, very unique sounding band. When I listen to this band,
Hmm.
songwriting's top notch, production is great. It's like if you took the Police, The Cure, I'm gonna say the Wallflowers. Don't ask me why the Wallflowers popped into my head, but what the hell? And Squeeze, and you mixed them all up in a bowl. This did not sell.
Hmm.
This has like a cult following. I'd never heard of them. Have you heard of them?
I've not heard of them. How did
Okay.
you found out through this promoter?
From Scott Byron, who was the A&R rep at Zoo. He brought this band to Zoo.
Hmm.
before Zoo, back in the day. Uh, Phenomenal record. Holy crap, if you haven't heard the Spelvins, please check it out. I'm assuming it's out there. It's something available. I haven't looked at it
Hmm.
or looked them up since I bought it. But back in the day, you could probably get this for $1. No one
Yeah,
knows about it
in the cutout bins, no
in
less.
the cutout bins. The one I ended up getting is a pro. It says not for sale on
Wow.
the. It was a promo,
What does the
but
back look like? Oh, it's got the guys on it there. Yeah,
got the guys on it, and it was a cut. Well, it was a promo.
right. The spell.
These guys, wonderful record, hooks, guitars. I mean, I would say it's more Squeeze like than the Police or maybe the Cure. Maybe Squeeze, Wallflowers, but I don't know. I like
I
it.
don't know, man. All the bands you're saying are sounding really good to me, so that's going to definitely be one I'll have to check out.
But Scott Byron turned me on to more stuff that we could probably talk about because all those Zoo acts that got signed, everyone
So
knows
many
Matthew
good ones.
Sweet, but
I
no
don't.
one knows all these other acts. So,
I'm trying to think of what other bands were on that label, but I do remember going through a period of time where everything I bought that was on Zoo Entertainment
hmm
was good. The only thing
uh,
that comes to mind, I think that Green Jelly.
yep.
Yeah, I think they were
The
on it.
Pooh Sticks.
I've heard of them, but I don't.
Well, we could talk about that later.
Yeah, that can be.
But Green Jello or Green Jelly was on there.
Yeah, I remember that.
So those two acts, pretty much the biggest. It's Matthew Sweet and
Right.
but everything else. The other band, there's other bands, but we
Yeah.
work on that down the road.
All
So yeah, that's my first choice.
right. Well, I'm going to go a little different direction. It's the reason I'm wearing my Alice Cooper shirt here. Got the band Billion Dollar Babies.
Oh,
You
mhm.
familiar with them? The
I've
Offspring?
never heard them,
Okay.
but I'm familiar.
So, three of the guys from Alice Cooper. This is, of course, when everyone went off to do their solo albums. Alice makes Welcome My Nightmare, but decides not to return. But in the process of that, the rest of the guys start writing for the next Alice Cooper band album, which ultimately becomes Battle Axe. So we got Michael Bruce on guitar, Dennis Dunaway on bass, and Neil Smith on drums. We need a vocalist. We got Bob Dolan in there, and we brought in a second guitar player, Mike Marconi. But this album sounds like Alice Cooper Band album. It, in my opinion, is utterly fantastic. It picks right up where Muscle of Love left off. Alice does guest on one of the songs on here. And you can imagine if he did the whole album on this thing, what it would have been. So really a shame that they only did this one. They were one and done, did it under this name. It didn't do anything. I think also coming out in 77 was a bit too late. If they had put this out right after Muscle of Love, it would have done a lot better. But yeah, just really great of the old school Alice Cooper sound. That's what this is. And they've got it out. It's a little like mini box set where it's got little booklet in it, and then it's got the demos and like their one and only live performance. They actually had, you know, they had a ring and a character come out, and they like boxed and fought like Rock'em Sock'em robots
That's
and
what I
everything.
was thinking.
So they did the whole theatrical thing like Alice Cooper was doing, but it just they said it's the money, the cost of putting on that production. They did like 10 dates, recorded that one. That was the very first live performance they did. So it's kind of raw. But
So
yeah,
what label was that on originally? Did that
I
come out on Warner Brothers too? I don't remember.
no, probably not. I'm looking at the info I have in front of me. I don't know what label it was originally. Um, but
Well, who put out that reissue?
yeah, this is from H&E Records, which is part of the Lemon or the Cherry Red
Okay,
Records
yeah, yeah,
family. Yeah, so it's one of those. But
very
it's a cool
nice.
little box like that. They slide out of the side. I wish it was the clamshell. When I bought it, I thought it would be
Mhm.
that, but I don't know. It's like 27 bucks or something on Amazon, and totally worth it in my opinion. And so far, that's the only version of it with the original album cover. There was a box set of the exact same things that came out about 20 years earlier with different style art that looked more like the Billion Dollar Babies Alice Cooper album, the
Mhm.
same sort of green skinned wallet. But the quality of that was so subpar. This has been remastered and I think even remixed. It's given a lot better sound.
Yeah, I've never heard that. I was aware of it, never heard it.
Are,
So if let's say Alice Cooper did the vocals on the whole thing,
yeah,
would that be better than Muscle Love?
I don't think, well, okay, you're talking
Can you compare that?
to, yes, but you're talking to somebody who loves Muscle of Love.
Well,
Well, outside of Billion Dollar Babies being a classic album, I
mhm,
pull out Muscle of Love more than any other album, but it's also, I love albums that are underplayed.
right.
Kind of thing. So I generally grab stuff that doesn't have all the big hits on it. Yes, I think if Alice had done the vocals on here, it's better than Muscle of Love.
Wow.
It has more of the classic style sounding tracks that we know them for. And the only thing that's missing is that defining vocal. Not that the guy that they have didn't do good vocals, but it's missing the Alice Cooper flair that he brought.
Right.
Yeah. So
And
just
I don't know who produced that. Do you? I know we're on it. We're still on the damn first picks.
I know,
You know
right?
who
Right.
produced that?
Um, doesn't say on the back of it, and
God, I don't know who produced it. I'm gonna have to look it up.
the
Someone will
writing
know
was
down in
so
the
tiny.
comments.
Yeah,
Yeah, we could see that. If we could read that, it'd be great.
I know, right? Even
I
if I
know.
had my glasses, I probably couldn't.
Yeah, it's small. Anyway, there you go. I can tell
Yeah.
I'm going to spend more money there, Brendan.
Are you a fan of Alice Cooper?
Oh, I got all of it.
Oh, okay. Then, in my opinion, if you want more old school, this is totally worth it. It,
And I love old school.
you're gonna love it.
All right.
You can stream it, so go stream it if you want to check it out. But yes,
All
that
right.
is definite. Then
Excellent. All right. My next pick, I'm going to go with a band. Again, this I got turned on by a guest on the show.
those are
In
great.
fact, we might, well, we were going to do a one and done where we look at that one album
Yeah.
that they did, but they ended up putting out a second album, so we can't do that. But this might be a record anyway to look at, to highly recommend to people. We're going with a band. You probably don't know this band. Do you know this cover?
I do not.
Okay, the band is Spy Mob.
No, I never heard of them.
Okay, here we go. This will be right up your alley. This is a band from Minneapolis from the early 90s.
Okay.
10 tracks.
Be very regional again.
Could be.
Well, that's what I'm saying. Like, I'm an East Coast guy. Yeah,
I
at
thought
least
you
I'm
would
getting
know
turned on to her from Florida up to New York. And
that.
I will say I've missed so many bands. Before the internet, man, these things didn't make their way to other markets all the time. It was up to radio stations.
This band you'd have to hear.
Okay.
Highly recommend it. Let's say rock. There's a lot of keyboards. It's almost like, how would I describe it? If Ben Folds 5 got together with, I'm not, Brendan, I'm not even sure if I know how to describe it. Yeah, they're an alternative band,
What
but they
year?
mix pop, rock, and soul
Okay.
all together, and it's rocking. It can be heavy at
Mhm.
times. The vocals on this record are absolutely stunning. The songwriting's good. The production, this came out on, I think this was self-released. What was the label? Oh, shoot, I don't have the label.
What's the
Star
year?
Trek label. And I think they self-produced this,
Okay.
put it out. This didn't sell at all. This might be a regional thing.
Right.
But man, they play it off like this is a major label album. You would have thought this would have taken off and sold records galore. But no, no one knows about this. And I wouldn't have known about it had DC come on my channel and recommended it.
Hmm.
Uh, and then it took them until I think 2014 till they put out a follow-up record.
But what year is that one?
This is 2004.
That one?
Hmm.
Oh wow. Okay. So yeah, much later on.
Yeah, I love it.
Okay.
Go out and check it out and
I'm
report
definitely
back
going
to
to
me.
look it up. I'm very curious when you talk about who the bands are that meld into to create some of this stuff. For me, that's what triggers it.
Yeah, but the only thing I can really that comes to mind because these guys are very unique.
Hmm.
Yeah, they have that pop rock soul type of thing, but I keep thinking the keyboards of Ben Folds 5 keep popping up in my brain. Now, they don't sound like Ben Folds 5
Right.
by any means, but I mean that type of keyboard aspect kind of
Mm.
comes into
So,
my mind. I think
yeah.
Ben Folds 5. It is what it is. The brain is a terrible thing,
Well,
Brent.
yeah, we all hear different things differently. I mean, I know when I describe stuff, sometimes people come back and they're like, "Oh, this band didn't sound anything like what you said, but they're amazing." So
Right.
it's like, well, I don't know. I hear that. That's the thing that registers in my mind. Uh,
Yeah, a lot of these bands, obviously everybody's been influenced by everybody else,
yeah,
and you can hear sprinklings of things
yeah.
uh, from everybody else. But you know what truly makes a lot of bands so great is because they can take all of those various aspects of other bands, but combine it into something that makes them sound truly their own. And a lot of these bands we talk about, yeah, the record is great, but you can hear a lot of something else, you
Hmm.
know. But I don't know. This band though, pretty sounds pretty unique, even though I have a lot of those elements. I really can't really come up with anything to pigeonhole them.
Those are
Same
the
with you.
best, man. When there's an album that doesn't sound like anything else, we can relate it to something, but it really doesn't sound like anything else. And then they only make one album, and you're like, I can't go to another band to get that. So like, I really need more from that artist.
Right.
But that's the fun of it, right? We
That's the
discovered
fun of it.
something. All right.
And we've talked about this too, Brendan. There's a lot of great new material that comes out
Yeah.
that we can never tap into because it's so vast. It comes
Yeah.
out on CD Baby, it comes out on Spotify, and you don't have a record company promoting things anymore.
No.
There's no machine anymore to get it out there. It's survival of the fittest. But back in the day when these guys had a shot,
Yeah.
Stranger, what
Mhm.
was that on Epic?
Yeah.
I can't remember. Stranger had their shot, didn't make it. But man, it's just like going on an archaeological find to find these old bands and
Hmm.
talk about these bands that didn't make it. I just love it.
I do too.
Get
I,
it right
I am
there.
a big fan of the What If.
Right.
And I know that you on our previous show that we just did with Pete Pardo, which incidentally aired yesterday at the time this one is airing. So you go over and check that out. We do the What Is This episode, and it was on Pink Floyd. But you mentioned you don't like remix albums. And for
Well,
me, when I
not
what I
real.
like
Well,
about them is the what if. What if it sounded this way? What if it was recorded today? What would it have sounded like versus when it was originally done? I don't want them to ever replace the original, but give me alternate takes, like an album done in all alternate takes. T Rex did that for every single one of his albums, put out a standalone release under a different title, and every song on it is an alternate take.
mhm.
It's like getting to hear the what could have been if those were the versions. And
Well, I'm going to throw out something, and
mm,
I don't know if we've ever brought it up, but I want your honest opinion on it.
mhm,
Now, you remember when ZZ Top did Eliminator, very 80s sounding record, and Billy Gibbons liked to reinvent the past or have revisionist history, and he put out the six pack
yep,
with all those 80s drums and all remixed into modern day 80s.
right.
Thoughts on that?
Now you know how old I am, or
Mhm.
right when I grew up.
I know.
I fucking love those albums,
Okay.
man.
You like the remix, the
Okay,
80s sounding
I do.
version of those 70s albums.
I do, but I love the 80s era of Eliminator, Afterburner, and Recycler.
Yeah, yeah, I know. Well, that's
Right.
why I'm asking you. How do you feel about
So those three now, and also coming up in the 80s, I mean, they literally replaced all that. Radio stations began playing those versions, and the
yeah.
old versions at that time, when that came out, those were the first six CDs. The other albums were not on CD yet.
Hmm.
You couldn't even get those unless you went and got the vinyl. So the CD replaced it. And for, I don't know, a good decade longer into the 90s and the early 2000s,
Hmm.
when they did release individual CDs of the catalog, they were those remixed ones. That's the part that I think is wrong. They should have always had the original plus the remix. Like the six
Right.
pack, which was a little box set essentially, should have just stayed that. When the individual albums came out, they should have been the 70s versions. But I'm sure what it was is, to be honest, I bet you those versions were selling because people wanted more of that 80s sound.
Could be.
Yeah, that's
But
a
now
whole
they
lot.
did put out a box set with all the original records, and those
Yes.
sound great. Highly recommend those. But see, that's kind of stuff I don't like. But
I,
we were talking about Pink Floyd Animals, and
and
I
I,
think the 2018 remix is brilliant.
yeah, and I hear you on that. I mean, there's, why people don't like them, but I just always look at it as an alternate way to hear it, a new way to hear my
Mhm.
favorite album. I can always go back and check it out, but as long as they don't take the old one out of print, I'm good with it.
Yeah. The Ozzy thing.
Yeah, that one. All right, so that's another episode.
There you go. We went on another tangent,
Another
ladies
tangent,
and
right?
gentlemen.
Let's get back into talking
All
about
right.
some cool,
Yeah.
underrated, and obscure albums. I have talked about this one before on my channel, but I got to bring it up in this new series, this new episode that we're doing here. Fandango,
Oh yeah, I know that record.
Cadillac, 1980, right? This is
Hmm.
a Wounded Bird reissue version. They've all come out on Wounded Bird, but
Rock Candy has a version, I think.
yeah, oh yeah, they probably do as well.
Mhm.
So Wounded Bird, but you can also get the box set with all four of their albums. So cool clamshell style version of that. But
Is that Cherry Red?
this is a Cherry Red Records. It's on that H&E label. Um,
Write that down.
but all right, back to this though. So for those of you that don't know it, although like I said, I have talked about it on my channel. Of course, it features future Rainbow vocalist Joe Lynn Turner. It was his first project. So I came into this because of liking Joe Lynn Turner. When I found out he had a band called Fandango, none of this stuff was in print. I don't have it in front of me here, but they had a Japanese best of. And I ordered the Japanese best of, and I couldn't believe how much I liked the stuff. The thing is, doesn't sound like Rainbow. I refer to it, especially this album here, as disco infused rock. It's not,
AOR?
yeah, you can definitely call it that, but the bass lines and the drum beats on this thing definitely have more to do in the R&B and disco world. But then you've got rock guitars and you've got Joe Lynn Turner. I don't know, man. I think this stuff is utterly fantastic, and it is not anything that I can compare it to. But this is like a desert island album. I pull this thing out all the time. I've never gotten tired of it. If you're gonna go stream it, check out the songs "Blame It on the Night," "Stranger," and "Hypnotized," and they're phenomenal. It's like, why did this band not explode? I could never tell you. Even after the whole Rainbow thing, you would have thought that something would have happened for those albums. They put out 4 albums, didn't do anything, and then Joe Lynn Turner is snapped up for Rainbow. Of course, the rest is history, but such underrated stuff. All of the albums. I do think that the last one, Cadillac, is the most rock developed of all of these. These get back into more of the soul R&B flavored rock, which is maybe why they did it. And they're a really large band. The number of guys that are in it. This album here, it's like a Leonard Skinner style band, you
Oh yeah,
know,
look at that. Yeah.
right? So I already showed you this one, the Cadillac. That's a great one right
Yeah,
there.
that one I've never seen that cover.
And then the debut, this is them on the back. Take my finger off them, but
It looks like kind of reminds me of Derringer, the band.
yeah,
Kind
yeah.
of that type of photo.
But have you heard Cadillac, or you just know of
I've
the?
heard some of it.
I think you would really enjoy this group. Go stream some, but again, this is like another $20 to $30 box set on quoted prices off of Amazon. But um, oh man, I got to tell
Yeah.
you, when I got this, I had never heard the first three. I'd only ever heard this album. I've since been able to find Wounded Bird reissues and jewel cases, so I now have the whole thing. But I bought this one first. I just took a chance on it. I flipped it over. I saw that Joe Lynn Turner was part of this,
Hmm.
and I was like, "What the hell? I got to buy it." So some
Yeah, and
cool.
that last record came out. What year was it?
This was Oh, 1980. This was
1980.
1980. Yeah. The reissue of this was 2006. And I do think you're right. I think Rock Candy Records has
Yeah,
some of
it's
these.
out.
So if you
Mhm.
can't find the Wounded Bird, the Rock Candy one's going to be remastered and have a way better booklet in it. So I
Yeah.
would recommend
Get
that.
it for the booklet.
Yeah.
All right, my next pick. I don't know if you got it in the mail yet, but we're gonna go with
Oh, I have not, and I can't wait.
it's coming. I ended up ordering two by mistake.
Oh, is that
Whatever.
how that happened?
That's how it benefited you.
It did benefit
So
me.
anyway, I kind of got this. I ordered it from Rock Candy. I just thought, well, I know this has to be good. Well, I had no idea. It was just I like to just order some stuff and just play Russian roulette and see what I get.
I do too, especially with Rock Candy. I can't go wrong with Rock Candy releases.
So this is the second Bad Boy album.
Mhm,
This record, they're a band from Milwaukee,
mhm,
formed in the mid 70s. This came out in 1978, even though I listened to it and I think like it could be coming out later.
mhm.
Maybe it was ahead of its time. The thing that immediately grabbed me when I played it are the chord progressions on here. This band is kind of like what I hear in here is a mix of, at times I can hear like riffs from Kiss.
Hmm.
At times I hear things on here that sound very Cheap Trick like. If you would wipe out, who's the vocalist? John, well, I'm not sure exactly who's the lead singer. Steve Grimm and Joe Lucinci. I'm going to butcher his name. I don't know yet. I'm not familiar enough with the band yet. I'm just still taking it in. But it was one of those releases or one of these CDs that I got that immediately grabbed me.
I love it.
Sometimes it takes a while to something to
Right?
take to sink in.
Hmm.
This did not.
That's
So
cool.
it's like Cheap Trick, Kiss, Slade, maybe The Move.
That all
Combine
sounds
them
cool.
all up together. But the riffs and the chord progressions
Mhm.
really are infectious, and I the guitars are great, the vocals are great. I mean, if you like Cheap Trick, Kiss, Slade, The Move, you might like Bad Boy. So, but this is the second album. Now I want to hear the first album.
The band that Milwaukee built,
Yes, I
or,
have.
or the band that Milwaukee made, something like that.
Now
So,
I know this has a connection to Randy Hogan.
really?
Is that right? Who was Xena? Who was the first Cheap Trick? Am I thinking right? Randy Hogan? Who am I thinking of? Who was the first singer of Cheap Trick before Robin Zander?
I don't know that
Zeno.
history.
Zeno
Uh,
has some kind of connection to this band, whether he started singing on the first album
mhm.
and he left. I don't know. I don't have the first
No,
album.
that'll make it
Someone
even
down
more.
below might be able to chime in on that.
Yeah.
But this second album, there's no sophomore slump here. If you're a Cheap Trick fan, I guarantee you'll like Bad Boy.
That's awesome. Yeah. So those of you that don't know, as Grant was saying at the beginning, he got two, so he's mailing me one, and mine has not come. But I have the debut, the band that Milwaukee
Okay,
made or built, whatever the title of that is, and I like that a lot. But I had heard that this one was the album to get, like
it could
of
be.
all their albums. So, and I don't know if they're maybe recently back in print or something. When I got that one.
Well,
The second one was that was not available, so I couldn't get it.
I got this directly from Rock Candy, so this is
Maybe that.
back, and I'm not sure if the first one's in print.
Oh,
We've talked about this before,
yeah.
everybody. Sometimes you'll look on Rock Candy's site and something will be in print,
Hmm.
and then it'll go out, and then something may turn back in. They probably did another pressing or something.
Or they got the license back. I mean, it all comes down to licensing. That's why the Fandango. This is on Wounded Bird. We know Rock Candy Records has done it,
Yeah.
and then this is on Cherry Red Records, right? So the licensings of these things, I don't know if they sign them for like a year or two or what, and then they go out.
I don't know.
Yeah.
I really have no idea. Certain record companies have different deals.
Hmm.
Uh,
Different
but
locations
but
too.
I have learned that it's a lot easier to license things in the UK. Our licensing here is much more problematic,
Hmm.
and this is why you go on websites and you see Rock Candy's got all these records. You get Cherry Red
Yeah.
basically is doing what Rhino used to do
Yes.
because Rhino is just a Rhino's not Rhino anymore.
No, they're strictly Warner Brothers and yeah,
Warner Brothers killed Rhino.
yeah.
So Cherry Red's really what Warner Bros. It's even a more robust version
Hmm.
of what Rhino was back in the day. But all these UK companies have a lot of great reissues, and we just kind of we suck over here in the States. To be quite honest.
Yeah, well, that's why, I import all those things.
Yep.
Just go to the UK companies and get them, but love it.
Whatever. I like it too,
That's
but
right. And
it,
thank and thankful to those companies. Shout out to the Cherry Red Records and all their subsidiaries, Lemon, H&E, and then Rock Candy, Wounded Bird, Bad Reputation. All those labels are doing an amazing job. I mean, they should be the sponsors to this episode because of all these obscure and underrated bands. That's what those labels are. That's what they do. They're getting that stuff back out in print. God bless them, you know?
yeah,
All right,
$100%.
next one. Again, you'll probably know. I took a little different approach when I was putting it together for this episode. I wanted to do ones that are obscure and underrated, but it doesn't necessarily mean you can't get them, and it doesn't necessarily mean nobody's ever heard of it type of
Okay.
thing. I wanted to do some that were amazing albums, right? So I covered those, the first two. This one here, Mick Fleetwood's Zoo. Yes, you know it?
Billy Thorpe.
Yeah, yes.
Yeah.
I think Billy Thorpe is the guitar player on this one. No,
Yeah.
no, he's on the next one.
Oh,
You're,
darn. I
yeah,
was off. See,
you're thinking of, where is it? I have it handy. This is the Billy Thorpe.
okay.
And this one is just called The Zoo.
Okay.
We dropped the Mick Fleetwood. There's the guys. I don't know. Is that Billy Thorpe
That's
there?
Billy Thorpe right there.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, he's great.
But he got, it's it's Fleetwood Mac all in but name,
Hmm.
you know. No, this one here, and I don't remember who it is, but this was like 1983. So Mick Fleetwood's Zoo, the entirely different lineup over here for
Okay.
The Zoo. And this is on Capricorn Records. I can't see the year on it, but I want to say this is like 1990 or something.
That sounds about
Um,
right.
okay, but this record here, bottom line, if you want an album that is like a lost Fleetwood Mac album, meaning as good as something like Tango in the Night, Mirage, that era of Fleetwood Mac, this is it. This is that kind of record that I just got because it's Mick Fleetwood's name, and I was on a Fleetwood Mac kick, and I got it, and it just moved me something crazy. And every time I put it on, I have to listen to the whole thing start to finish. It's just like, oh, God, I love this album. And this is put out on Real Gone Records, another one that does cool
Real gone. Yep.
reissues.
Hmm.
Um, you know, the people that oh well, the only cool thing about this is I will say, um, we have contributions from Fleetwood Mac members on here. So Christine McVie, Lindsey Buckingham do play on some of the songs. The two main, that's what it is. The two main musicians on here, Billy Burnett, who went on to play with Fleetwood Mac under The Mask. I think that's the title of it.
Yep.
Follow up to Tango in the Night. George Hawkins is also on here. And you get songwriting credits. Carl Wilson from the Beach Boys, Lindsey Buckingham, Billy Burnett, and George Hawkins are the songwriters for this. It's phenomenal. I'm telling you, if you like Fleetwood Mac, everyone go check this out. Mick Fleetwood's Zoo. And yes, don't confuse it with The Zoo, which is also Mick Fleetwood. This is Mick Fleetwood's Zoo, two different
Okay.
entities. But yeah, I love
I
it.
I vaguely remember that record. I don't know. It was probably one of those things that ended up in the cutout bins. You know it
Probably.
didn't sell.
Yeah, no, not at all. It was just, again, and that's what I love. I go to record stores. I saw this in there. It was a reissue at the time, whatever, the 2012. So in 2012, Real Gone Records does a reissue. I'm at a used record store. This is in there sealed. I see it's got Mick Fleetwood's name on it. I love just old stuff. It's like I'm going to take a chance on it. I've never heard of it, but it's got to be worth something. It blew my mind. It was just one of those records that should have been very successful, but it wasn't Fleetwood Mac, so it didn't get the love and attention that it should have.
Wasn't meant to be.
Yeah,
All right.
these
Well,
two
I'm
I've
gonna have to
got
check it out now.
are gonna be ones you're gonna spend money on if you don't know.
I know.
I
It's gonna
saving
be
them for the end.
expensive. This wasn't that cheap.
Oh, wasn't it? Can
Yeah.
you say, or you want to not?
Oh, I don't remember. It was
Oh,
maybe 40, maybe 40 bucks.
okay. That's not a bad deal for that. I've seen
No.
it upwards of 80 and 90.
Yeah. So
So
I got a lot to listen to because of you.
that's great though.
I know it is.
Oh,
All right, my next pick, I'm going to go with a band. This was produced by Todd Rundgren, ladies and gentlemen.
you
This
love
came
Todd
out,
so much.
and this came out in
You know what? Before
1999.
before you go any further, I have to say you're constantly bringing up Todd Rundgren, and you
100%.
did it on I think a Perfect Album, one of those videos that we
Maybe.
filmed. Okay, point
Oh, something, anything. Yeah.
yeah, point is, I'm letting you know that I have really, really tried to give Todd Rundgren a shot. I
Yes.
have a best of. I've listened to that. But when I go listen to the albums, they are all over the place.
Oh, yeah.
I don't
Uh-huh.
even know where to frickin' start. So I'm going to let you show me. Well, this is different.
I would start off with something, anything if you start off.
Something, anything. All right. Because I'm trying. Everybody just raves about him, but I haven't found an album that works for me,
Something, anything. Gateway drug.
except Utopia. I
Well,
love you.
Utopia is a lot more accessible because they're basically, well, not the prog stuff, but the more pop
Yeah,
stuff,
yeah, yeah. All right,
you
go
know,
back to the album.
Neutron Planet, stuff like that. All right. So this is an album, 1999, produced by Todd Rundgren. The band is called Splendor. Are you familiar with Splendor?
I am not familiar, but I know the album cover.
Okay.
So
So,
I'm now really intrigued.
well, here's the band. This
Uh-huh.
You're gonna just call these guys an alternative band. This record's pretty heavy.
Okay.
Now, you think Todd Rundgren as a producer always has that stamp. It
Hmm.
always sounds like Todd Rundgren. This does not sound like Todd Rundgren. This sounds like I don't know what it sounds like. I don't know if I can. It's very unique. Yeah, it's alternative. It's heavy. I guess the closest that I would come up to is Stone Temple Pilots, maybe.
Ooh, that sounds good.
Pearl Jam in that when Pearl Jam was rocking, like the first Pearl Jam album,
Uh-huh.
in that vein, but they don't sound like that. This is really hard for me to describe.
This is
All
1990s, I assume, right?
this came out 1999.
Okay. At the end of that, but I can see where they would have the influences.
They have that type of sound quality.
Mhm.
It definitely sounds, it doesn't sound 80s by any means. It sounds like that Pearl Jam Stone Temple Pilots kind of vibe. Heavy though. It's
Okay.
heavy. It's rocking. Uh it's got
They
13
only make
tracks.
one
Todd
album.
produced it. It only sold, when I was doing a little research, it only sold 226,000 copies in the United States. It
That's
never
good.
charted anywhere.
220,000?
226,000.
That's almost quarter of being gold. I mean,
Well, kinda, but
that
it never charted.
okay.
That might be that might be over the lifetime of it, Brendan.
I'd still say that is good for an album. I mean, I know for a
I
label
guess.
it's not. They want you to hit gold, but if you sell quarter of a million copies on an album, is that their first album?
This is it.
I would think that if they could sell that many, and is that a major label? What's it on?
This came out on I think it's on this is on Columbia.
Okay, so it's already on a major. If it had been on an independent and they had sold that, I think a major would have snapped them up and then done some, production or whatever to
Mhm.
kick it over. And I know what you're saying. Maybe that is lifetime. Most sales of these bands happen within the first, year that they're out. And then it's very small numbers thereafter. But,
But this is either a promo
uh-huh.
or a cutout. I don't know.
I got to check it out. I love those alternative rock
Well,
bands that ran under the
okay,
radar.
you would like it then.
I bet
But
I've
the
written it.
songwriting's great. The production, it doesn't sound like Todd. The
Uh-huh.
production's not, Todd Rundgren likes to use a lot of compression. It's not really compressed. It doesn't sound like Todd.
Okay.
Uh, but
That's
I
helpful.
dig the whole record. The sequencing's good. The songwriting's good. If you like Stone Temple Pilots or Pearl Jam, I mean, heavy Pearl Jam,
Right.
not, you know, Americana Pearl
Not
Jam.
yellow
I'm
lead better.
not dogging, right. You like rockin' Pearl Jam, rockin' Stone Temple Pilots, you'll probably dig this. And
Well,
I
that
listened to it, Brendan, and I'm going, how was this not successful? I have no idea.
it
Because
has.
when it's just got success written all over it. Maybe it's the album cover, maybe it's the name of the band.
I think
I
it's
don't know what it is.
like I said. I recognize the album cover. I recognize the name, meaning it must have been promoted in some fashion for it to have been there. But by that point, I was past all that. I was not into it. Into the late '90s rock sounds that were going on. I was almost reverting at that point, going back and rebuying all the glam metal and stuff that I had
Yeah.
gotten rid of, because I came into music in '89 and buying all that sort of stuff. But then '91, everything shifts for me, and I'm a kid. I don't have a lot of money, so I was selling off a lot of my heavy metal, glam metal stuff to buy all that alternative rock. But by '94, '95, I was done with that, realizing that there wasn't nearly as much, I don't know, excitement and enthusiasm and bombasticness and over the topness that I loved from all my glam metal. And I started going back and buying all that. It was like $1 a piece here and there because nobody wanted that stuff. But I built a massive, I mean, this entire thing of CDs is nothing but glam metal. That part back there is rock, straight up rock, classic rock, whatever you want to call it. Then I've got a separate section that's nothing but glam metal. Not to mention, I got about 12 more boxes that each hold 90 CDs a piece in it. So
The
it
struggle is real here. The
is
struggle.
totally real.
Well, I was looking when I bought this though, the
Mhm.
Splend, I'm looking up. Let's see if I can find it. They're halfway down the sky, 1999. Oh my God, there are tons of copies of it.
Yeah.
Uh, there was, well, it came out here in the US, came out in Austria, Indonesia, but I mean, if you just go look up a
Does it
regular
say
copy,
what
there are
their big,
52 copies of it.
what was their
90,
hit? Or
there's no hit.
no, but I mean like
Oh,
first single. Does it,
uh,
know?
um,
I'm
mm,
always curious to when I listen to an album like that that bombed or
I
didn't.
would say the standout tracks are, well, it did have two singles.
Okay,
Yeah, whatever. And I think God Can Explain. So there were two singles that absolutely did nothing.
nothing. Too much of it around, probably. It was just buried.
Yeah,
The market
maybe it
got
was
flooded.
timing.
Yeah, yeah.
But there are 52 copies available and it starts out at 91 cents.
That's awesome. Shipping will be more than the album.
Correct.
I
But it's so worth it.
No, I know, but what I'm going to do is I'm going to hit up my local record stores, the used bins, and see first if there's a copy that's been living there for years I can pick
Just one
up.
of those things that just slipped through the radar. And I don't think it's never been reissued.
Right.
No rock candy has ever tackled it. It's only come out on Columbia here back in the day.
Yeah.
I mean, it just did miserable and it just went away.
Well, rock candy so far has not really tapped the alternative rock world. They pretty much stayed in the AOR melodic rock, glam metal. They don't even get into heavy metal, really.
Yeah.
I know.
Now
They
they might, I'm looking on Discogs right now because
yeah,
that's what we do.
yes.
There is a Splendor album called To Whom It May Concern that came out in 2002.
Okay. Must have been the
I don't know
follow.
if it's the same band though, because sometimes on Discogs they get things.
True.
Well, Mike Shipley mixed it.
That's good. I like it.
Uh, it might be the same band. I have not heard it.
Yeah, 3 years after that, I would think they're probably the same. Their name would still be registered and trademarked by then.
It could be then. I've never heard. I have never seen that album, but I can back this up 100%. Check it out.
I wrote it down. I'm keeping a list. All right, this next one I think you'll really enjoy. I'm be curious to know if you've ever heard of this band because they're a one and done or melodic hard rock band called Red Dawn.
No, no.
Good, we finally got one.
That looks like a something right up Rock Candy's.
It should be.
What
Rock
is it?
Candy, I should probably reach out to them and say, are you familiar with this? If you can get the licensing rights, this would be great. Um, I described this is, and I know I said this, I used this comparison, I think, last time, but they sound like Night Ranger meets Survivor.
All right, I'm
It's
down.
got the harder rock edge of Night Ranger, but it's got the melodies and everything that is Survivor. And I highly recommend check out track 3 Liar on here if you're just looking for something to get an idea of what this sounds like. It basically sounds like Eddie's Coming Out Tonight from Night Ranger, but done on keyboard. And then the rest of the band adds to it. So it's like that, but it's not that. But just very, very cool. That's obviously why I get the Night Ranger Survivor vibe. Here's the thing, cool tie-in. Also to what I already talked about with Fandango, 3 former Rainbow members make this up. So keyboardist is David Rosenthal, who's also a producer, has done a lot. And he played on Straight Between the Eyes, 1982, and Bent Out of Shape in 1983, which were both Joe Lynn Turner albums. Then we have later day era Rainbow guys that did the Stranger in Us All album. Chuck Burgee, the drummer, who's played with Blue Oyster Cult, Tokyo Motor Fist. He's currently in that. You know who they are, right?
100%.
Okay. Greg Smith on bass, Alice Cooper band, but well, not the band, but you know his own solo band, right?
Right.
And Greg Smith is part of Tokyo Motor Fist. So Chuck Burgee and Greg Smith of Tokyo Motor Fist over here with David Rosenthal on keyboards. This was I won't call it a reissue. It got issued again on Now and Then Records in 1994, but the album originally came out in 1993. And it's just great AOR melodic hard rock style stuff. If you can see the guys on the back, but it screams
Hmm.
House of Lords, Giant. It's got the big hair, right? Still trying to do this in 1993. I bought it just because I looked at the guys on the back of this and I was just like, that looks like my cup of tea. And they happened to list all the band members there. And I immediately recognized Chuck Burgee and Greg Smith. And I said, oh, Rainbow guys, I'm taking it no matter what. I didn't recognize David Rosenthal's name till I got home and did some research. Never Say Surrender from 1993 by Red Dawn. Everybody go check this out. This is killer. It's a one and done. They never made another album.
Yeah, originally that came out in Japan in
Is that what it is?
93.
That's the 1993 release because I've got a Now and Then European release from 94.
Yeah, on Discogs, just ladies and gentlemen, if you're looking to get one, well, you can find the Japanese release, but you cannot find the Now and Then.
How much is the Japanese release?
Just depends.
Average price.
Average price. It also came out on Now and Then in 1990. Wait a minute. Let me look. They
Okay.
have multiple listings. I take that back. So Now and Then is a UK. Is that a
Yeah.
UK label?
It's a
Okay.
yeah,
I
you
take that back. There are 7 copies up there right now for Now and Then,
okay.
and they're going for about, well, there aren't any here in the States. They're all overseas. You'd be spending about 30 to 50 bucks on it.
Yeah. It's one of those.
Obviously, it's out of print. And
Mhm.
the Japanese issues are running about that. There are a lot more Japanese pressings than there are of Now and Then, but it's out there. Yeah, look at that.
No, 1993.
I mean, that looks like 1987.
That's what I'm saying. When I saw this, I was like, these guys are just a little too late to the game. But everything
Mhm.
about their look, the album, and they only formed in 1992. So it's not like it was a band that was around in, say, 87 and just didn't record an album until then.
Hmm.
But I wasn't going to do this album. I actually just found it this morning when I was grabbing something else off my shelf, and I said, "Oh, Red Dawn. That's one that I should, get consider." And I popped it on, and I was just like, "Oh my God, this is so good. I got to talk about this one."
Wow.
Yeah,
It would have failed miserably here.
yeah, no, totally. 1993. Come on, none of that stuff would have made it anywhere.
Man, that's bold. Well,
Yeah,
whatever. Hey, it's a good record. Go out and check it out. That's
yeah.
what this
If you
what's
can
what
find it,
we're about. All right, my final pick, I'm gonna go with Well, I've talked about this on my channel before, and I have to bring it up over here. Are you familiar with this?
Yes,
LEO?
I love it. I
Okay.
love it.
So
Are you
this is a project. If anybody knows the artist Blue, he did a soundtrack song for one of the Spider-Man ones. He's more like a power pop producer guy. This project has a lot of different collaborators. Mike Viola from the Candy Butchers. You've got Andy Sturmer from Jellyfish,
Mhm.
Ducky Carlisle, who I think recently passed away, Matt Mahaffey,
Thinks you're thumbing down.
wow,
Can I?
calm down, everyone. It's
Okay.
not me.
How do you do
Mike
that?
Mahaffey, and I can't remember who he was connected to. I don't. It's a collaboration between all this. It's just a one-off project, and basically Blue brought it together. And what it is really a tribute, or not really a tribute album, but what they've done is taking a lot of what ELO originally did, and they've kind of reimagined it with
They've
their
made
own
their
take
own.
of it,
Yeah, they've made their own album that sounds like ELO.
basically.
Right. So it's a quote tribute band that instead wrote new original music that sounds like ELO, and they're just being blatant about it. That's why they're LEO,
Right.
using the initials, and it sounds like ELO. It's awesome.
It sounds like ELO, but you've got Blue singing,
Yeah.
you got Andy Sturmer singing. Uh, but yeah, it kind of mixes ELO and that early 70s AM type
Right.
pop together.
Hmm.
The thing about this is that the songwriting is phenomenal. Yeah, it sounds like ELO, but it's not blatant enough that you're
Yeah.
going to go, oh, you guys are just copying 100%. No, they make it like their own.
Right.
Um, you do have a bonus track on here, though, that appears at the end
Hmm.
after like 26 minutes
Oh yeah.
of it'll play
Remember
it.
that was a
I'll
thing in the
just leave it
90s?
there,
Yeah.
huh? But it is a ELO cover at the end.
Okay, cool.
But I love it. I'm a big fan of Blue. I like most of his albums he's put out. Some of them I haven't heard 100%, but I like what he brings to the table. And did I already bring that up with you? The other project that he did that was similar to LEO?
No, no, what's that? I don't think.
Same concept,
Okay.
but the band is called Loud Lion
Oh, yes. Well, I was just going to talk about that because that's the Def Leppard version of it.
of it.
And I started with Loud Lion and loved that so much,
Okay.
and then found out that he did Leo or Leo,
Yeah.
right? But yeah, for those of you that if you're interested in this all sounds fascinating what Grant is saying, he's done
It's so
a
good.
Def Leppard album. And it's
Mhm,
like the greatest Def Leppard album that was never released, sort of
mhm.
thing. It's in that vein. They do songs and they're in the style of Pour Some Sugar on Me and Animal and
Yeah.
stuff like that. But
All you have to do is think Hysteria,
yes,
and it's in the style. Now, if you are not a fan of that, you
yeah,
won't like it.
right.
But if you love that era of Def Leppard,
Hmm.
see, this is like a little bonus.
I have a whole I got about 30 albums that are of bands, tribute bands, so to speak, but doing original music. I have an AC/DC cover band called, I think, ABCD, and they made two studio albums in the style of AC/DC.
Awesome.
But they're a tribute band too that go out and just do the covers. I think that's cool. If you're going to be a tribute band and you're going to go out and do that stuff, and if those bands aren't, well, I mean, AC/DC been around and
Well,
stuff, and there was a
right.
period where ELO was not, I think at the time, even when that was done,
Yeah.
where the
This is
bands weren't doing it. Def Leppard doesn't sound like Hysteria era anymore anyway. So there's Kiss bands. There's a band called 1977 that is a Kiss.
I've done a show on them.
Awesome. See, Kiss tribute band that made their own album. But yeah, I have a box full of those things, and I think it's very cool. If I want more from that artist, but they're no longer making anything, and these tribute bands can do it well enough in that same style, great. I'll
Yeah, the
check it
nine,
out.
1977 is phenomenal.
Yeah, I highly
It's
recommend that.
They totally nail it.
Total vocal style, the playing, Ace's licks that are on it. I couldn't believe it. I was
It
like,
even sounds like Ace, and it's not. It's just amazing.
yeah,
It's amazing.
it.
But I think that they're using a lot of the old same equipment.
Mhm.
They've studied it down to the point where they just trial and error and were able to duplicate the sounds. Now I don't know how they went about this, but they've got that whole Jeff Lynne drum sound on here,
Mm-hmm.
and well, you listen to Loud Leo and it's obviously they're playing through Rockmans. That's what Hysteria was recorded on. Tom Scholz Rockmans, ladies and gentlemen, but they nail the sound. I remember, Brendan, I did a listening party and I played one of those Loud Lion songs.
Yeah.
And a lot of people went, "What?" Because they didn't know who it
Yeah, they
was.
thought it was Def Leppard.
And well, they thought, "God, who, what?"
Yeah.
Now, either you're a fan of that stuff or you're not. A lot of people were going, "No, that's
No,
not."
yeah.
They were impressed by the execution, but
Hmm.
they really didn't want anything from Hysteria on the listening party. But it was fine. It was fun. You know what I mean?
Yeah. That's cool that you know about those. I like that you brought that one up because that is a real obscure, underrated thing. I mean, I don't even know how I first found out about this stuff.
Now I did find something new today.
Yeah.
This was reissued in Japan
Hmm.
in 2021 with bonus tracks.
Okay.
I just ordered it. I gotta have the bonus tracks too. They were either from the sessions, they didn't use the
Right,
tracks.
right, right.
So I've got that coming from Japan.
I like how you've influenced yourself. You made yourself buy something else.
I did. But I love this so much
Yeah.
because, again, the production, the songwriting. No, it's not ELO, but my God, the songs on here. Anything with Andy Sturmer on it, I'm good.
Hmm. All right.
Mike Viola from the Candy Butchers, I'm good. So,
I'm pulling mine out today. I haven't listened to that one and the Loud Leo in a long time. Definitely going to check those out. Um, okay, all right, I'm going to do this last one. I would
oh,
expect that you would know this one, but
hey,
it's so good and it is so obscure. I want to cover it on here. They're an 80s pop rock band. Can't do an episode without at least one of these on here. White Sister?
oh, I got that. Yeah,
Okay.
100%.
Yes, right? You
I,
agree.
Brendan, I almost pulled it for this show.
One of these times I know we're going to match up, we're going to sync up. But for those of you that don't know who White Sister are, this is a self-titled 1984 release. It's produced by Greg Giuffria of Angel. It was a chance meeting. I don't know which member of the band ran into him at a gas station, knew who he was, gave him his cassette tape, and Greg enjoyed it so much he offered to produce the album. So there's a cool connection right there, right off the bat. Track number 5, Whips, was an unreleased Angel song at the time. I don't know if it's come out since then,
I don't
but
know.
they do it. And I always loved when I found bands that did unreleased songs from my favorite bands. Pretty Boy Floyd did Toast to the Town, a Motley Crue song, and I bought that album just to hear the song Toast to the Town, which I couldn't hear at that point. But anyway, so we got an unreleased Angel song on here, and it's basically like 70s punk rock bands, like what Angel did, but building on that, but with a harder rock edge. So
Mhm.
it's almost in the metal. It's not quite, but it's
Mhm.
got all the flair and pomp. Just very cool. Now, I didn't know this at the time. I thought this was a one and done only type thing, and we were doing a one and done album show, I think, over on Pete's channel. I had pulled this to do it and found out no, in fact, they made a second album, Fashioned by Passion in '86, which on Discogs is like $200. I can't even get close to the thing. And eBay, it's the same thing. So you can stream it. So I immediately, when I found that out a while back, I've been streaming it, enjoying it. And what's cool about this is I didn't even know about these guys until later on, a band that I enjoy, that I like from the glam metal era, even though they didn't really sound glam metal, Tattoo Rodeo.
Yeah.
3 of the guys from White Sister formed Tattoo Rodeo. You
Oh,
got bassist and vocalist, the guitarist and the drummer, Dennis Churchill, Rick Chaddock, Richard Wright, are the 3 guys that go on and do this. And they made 2 albums as Tattoo Rodeo. But I like Tattoo Rodeo so much that eventually, when the internet started booming and I could, use it in the early 90s, because these albums are like, the Tattoo Rodeo stuff is like 1990 and everything. But I was like, oh, those guys made another album, and then I got it, and of course, it didn't sound anything like Tattoo Rodeo. So, in one ear, out the other at that time until I really got into punk rock stuff. And I was like, oh, wait, that is a punk rock album. Let me go pull it out. And when I pulled it out, I heard it in a completely different light than I'd ever heard it from before. And I had a really bad first CD pressing version that they did that was just cheap. So I immediately went on online and saw that Rock Candy Records had done it, and the remastering of this is phenomenal. So any of you guys out there that don't know White Sister, maybe you know Tattoo Rodeo, but you like punk rock, this stuff is where it's at. Again, highly recommend it. Grant, sounds like you'd recommend it
I
too.
totally, if you like pop rock, it's a pop rock classic.
Yeah.
Um, and I was aware of that second album,
Hmm.
Passion by Passion, though I have never went down the road to see if you can even,
It got a
well,
CD issue very rarely somewhere, and they're
like in the UK it came out.
maybe very expensive though.
Yeah, I've never seen it. But I mean, if you look at the album cover of White Sister, you kind of wonder, hmm,
Well,
wonder
that's
why
the
they didn't
thing.
make it.
Look, take one look at their outfits on here, and it's just like, nope. And it's
That's
so,
84.
yeah, it's 84. It's very retro. And so even today, people aren't going to probably pick it up based on that. I mean, they should probably have redone the art with just the logo and everything, put the guys on the back or something, and it'd probably get more attention today. At the time, maybe that worked. I don't know. There's the guys again on the backside. I just love the way Rock Candy does their things, a little write up, songs, puts a cool photo of it in there. You also put their little logo there so that I know when I'm going through boxes or on the walls, I can find my Rock Candy releases very quick.
Oh, instantaneously.
Yeah,
Yeah, that White Sister album came out on EMI America back in the day. And the second album, I'm looking, but
it was 1986. Maybe it didn't come out on EMI, and that's why it just filtered into nothing.
yeah, I think they only put out the one record on EMI.
Mm.
Rest of it's just like FM label. I'm not sure what FM, I'm not familiar with the FM
It
label.
was a small label. I have some stuff from them.
Oh, it's a Greek independent label.
There you go.
I don't know, but you said you heard now the original version that you had of this, you said
Yeah.
sounded like crap.
It did. It was really bad. Obviously unremastered, just normal mastering straight from the vinyl, I think.
Oh, it was a vinyl. It was a needle
Yeah.
drop.
I can't even remember the label, but it was its first time being issued on CD, early 2000s, I think. And again, I bought it because Dennis Churchill was promoting it, maybe on his website or something like that. And that's how I first found out that he was part of something else. But I got it, and it didn't sound like anything I wanted it to at the time.
Gotcha.
But this is why I don't get rid of albums, because later on, when I was reading something about, a list of punk rock bands, and White Sister was under it, I was like, wait, that doesn't sound right to me. So I went to the box that I had stored it in because I wasn't going to, thought I didn't care about it, pulled it out, listened to it, and it blew my mind. And
There you go.
but I looked up to see what else they had done and didn't see anything but saw the Rock Candy version. And I said, oh, this album's in dire need of a remastering. I'm definitely going to buy that and hope it sounds better. And it sounds great.
Yeah, in 1993, it did come out on EMI on CD in Japan. Of course,
Okay.
you know, a lot of these records, the Japanese, bless their hearts, because
Yeah.
they put out everything darn near.
Yeah.
The albums here that you thought would never come out, oh, came out in Japan.
Yeah. Exactly. And then they would release, I mean, all kinds of extra things, live
Mhm.
EP, a best of collection, a rarities collection. It's like the glam metal bands that I grew up with that I loved that only made, or I thought only made, one or two albums because, grunge comes along, kills it all off,
Yeah.
then end up putting out stuff in Japan. Third album, maybe a live album, and LA Guns has a Hollywood rehearsals, which was they were just in the studio recording like cover songs, but it's
Yeah.
very raw. But it's out in Japan. You can't find this thing anywhere else. This one album, never gotten a wider release, but they did it. I was loving that era, and I don't know, I'd say around like 97, 98, because I was off at the University of Florida in college. There was a killer record store very close to campus that had tons of used stuff. Nobody wanted any of this stuff. And I would just pull stuff out, and if it looked like it was part of the 80s AOR melodic rock or the glam metal movement,
Hmm.
I would just walk out with stacks of stuff. One, two, $3 a piece, Japanese things. It was insane. And I just built a collection and I loved all of it. Now you try to find it. Well, and that's why we do these episodes, right?
Hmm. Well, the whole idea is hopefully we can turn you onto something. That's
That's
the
right.
whole goal,
That
you know?
is the whole goal. So, hopefully you guys found something out of this. Grant, hopefully we didn't make you spend too much money. I know I
Not
myself,
yet.
yeah, at least going to check out Splendor. You got my piqued my interest with that one. Um, this will be posting on Monday. So, Grant, what do you have coming up for the week ahead that you'd like to promote on here?
All right. Well, tonight, 8 p.m. Eastern Time, we will be live in Grants Rock Warehouse, and we will be doing our top 10 favorite tracks from 1989. So we always try to do this show on Mondays before Hudson Valley Squares. So check it out. Come over to the warehouse. Please like and subscribe.
Yes.
There you go.
And
But more coming up in the warehouse. I can't remember what's all coming up this week because Brendan, I just fly by the seat of my pants.
that's right. Well, that's good. That's what makes your channel exciting. You never
It,
know
it
never know
does.
what's going to happen or what's going to get reviewed or talked about on Grant's channel. Grant is open to all different styles of music and types. And even if he doesn't know the band or like the band, if a panel wants to discuss it, he does it. You guys know on my channel, I predominantly only cover stuff that I like. Obviously, I have a wide taste of music and things that's over here to cover. So I do cover a lot of different genres and bands. But if you want a little different taste, you want to hear some killer conversation, go over to Grant's channel. Yes, subscribe. But also just check it out because he always has killer panels on there. And you did a show on the Osmonds.
We
And
did the Osmonds.
yeah,
I
so
had
like
Stephen Schnee on, and we looked at the Osmonds catalog. Now, who's talking the Osmonds? Well, we
nobody.
did because,
Yeah.
to be quite honest, they get a bad rap. They look at them, oh, pop, schlop, whatever. Well, if you really give the Osmonds, and I'm talking the original albums in the 70s with not,
Yeah.
not the Osmond brothers or
Yeah.
whatever, but the original MGM albums, there's a lot of, Crazy Horse is a pretty heavy song. There's a lot of heavy tracks on the Osmonds.
Mhm.
Basically, what learned is that the Osmonds really wanted to rock,
And
you
maybe,
know.
yeah, they just became pop because of their popularity and what
Yeah.
the labels wanted.
3 albums, ladies and gentlemen. You got to have Crazy Horses. You got to have The Plan and Phase 3. I
All right.
swear to God. Check them out. They came out like
I
on
mean,
3 7 Ts on Cherry Red back in the day, but
mm.
long out of print and they're all expensive. And
So there you go, guys. You got an extra three albums that are underrated and obscure for whatever the reason. You got the five that we did, so at least 10 there, going on 13. I know I threw in some extras, you threw in some extras, so always a fun time here. Thanks, Grant, for being here. Really appreciate it. On my channel, up and coming, I've got some more reviews and things for upcoming Record Store Day releases. I'm going to be talking about Alan Parsons' Work in Progress release and the new Roger Waters Dark Side of the Moon redo live edition. So tune in for that. Those should be posting probably tomorrow on Tuesday. All right, everyone. For myself and for Grant, thanks so much for joining us here. Let us know if you're enjoying this. Should we do episode number 3? Are you finding cool stuff? What are you finding? And if you did pick up any of the things that we talked about on the last episode, give us your thoughts. Let us know if it turned out to be something that you liked as well. And I think down the road, Grant, we might have to do an episode where, based on things I bought from you and vice versa, we talk about those now. Right.
I did listen to this.
Yep. Good stuff, right?
I'm in. I'm in. So there you go.
All right, everyone. Take care. Have a good one. And we will both be talking to you real soon.
We'll see you. Thanks.